Hi, it's Parag Sam. Welcome to this episode of Living and Working Abroad in our EU Residency post-Brexit series. What we want to look at today is preview the rest of 2022 and into 2023, where the changes of residency post-Brexit really start to bite. In the middle of December, the EU Council meets and potentially they could add to the number of countries that are in the Schengen Zone. At the moment, the EU Schengen Zone doesn't include Croatia, Romania, Bulgaria, Cyprus or Ireland. All those countries apart from Ireland have applied to join the EU Schengen Zone, but they're not members yet. There are other countries in the Schengen Zone which are non-EU European Economic Area countries like Switzerland, Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein. And as we said before, the city-states within the EU, like the Vatican City and San Marino, de facto don't operate a border control. There's separate issues with Gibraltar and Andorra, and to see how they're covered, watch our YouTube series, subscribe to the channel, and you'll find out more details in those meetings. What we're looking at now is that the point with Schengen is that it's designed to increase security and accountability within the EU, and that's a great topic, especially in 2022. But it actually also enables greater scrutiny of what's going on. And Schengen Zone is under review and under upgrading to allow for electronic travel authorities. Now, this is nothing new. The USA, Australia, New Zealand and other countries already have electronic travel authorities. So it's nothing new, but it is for the EU. And as we said again in this series, we've looked at that in a bit more detail. Over 60 countries have got visa-free travel into the EU, so you don't need a visa to travel to the EU from many countries around the world, from a third of the world's countries. However, it doesn't mean that you can stay there indefinitely or do exactly what you like. A residency permit is potentially required. Now, if you're an EU citizen of an EU country, then you can move within that Schengen zone freely, and in theory you don't need your passport to pass a border. When you come from outside the EU to pass a border, you need to use your passport, and therefore with visa-free travel you can make those moves and make those changes without the constraints and without the need for a Schengen Zone visa. You're just travelling on a short holiday or business trip for up to 90 days at a time. The Schengen Zone has an extra bite to it that other countries around the world don't apply, and that's you're only allowed to spend 90 days in 180 within any jurisdiction. So this is a bit more about tax compliance. When you look at the changes to residency permits and immigration over the last year, post-Brexit, new legislation was introduced by the EU in 2019, which was implemented in July 21 after the end of the Brexit period. Brexit was to December 20, but there's a 6-month grace period when countries within the EU could finish off paperwork, administration and residency permits for people already in the EU by the end of December. And then the residency and immigration changes started to take effect for the electronic transfer travel authority system and the changes to the Schengen Zone. Those have been gradually implemented over the last year, and in the start of 2023 there's a renewed emphasis on that. Now that's all going to come to a culmination in December, when the EU Residency Summit will ratify or confirm the changes that are in hand. Now, the introduction of the electronic travel authority system has been put back a few times, not least because of COVID. But there's still, we have to wait and see. So we'll update you during December about the changes that are being introduced by the EU. But it could be that Croatia are brought within the Schengen Zone from the start of January 2023, but possibly Romania and Bulgaria as well. Cyprus has got a slightly different issue, but potentially could also be co-opted quickly into the EU if they felt, for security reasons, that it was appropriate to do so. The problem with Cyprus for the EU is the split nature of the country, with the Turkish Republic in the north, which is not a settled state for Cyprus, the EU, or the rest of the world. So that means that Cyprus could be a bit longer before it gets into the Schengen zone. Ireland has not applied to join, and that's for the reasons again discussed in our series. If the EU brings forward for security reasons the co-option of Cyprus and along with Croatia, Bulgaria and Romania into the Schengen zone, the full Schengen zone rules will apply from January 23. Even if they don't, then by the end of November 23, it's likely to have happened, and the electronic travel authority system will be in place. So what does that mean? The electronic travel authority is something that's required. You can have visa-free travel into the EU. There's over 60 countries have visa-free travel within the EU. A UK expat, a UK citizen, doesn't need a visa to travel to many of the countries within the EU. You have to use your passport at the border. That is the point. So you don't have freedom of movement because you have to do the passport scans. But in the Schengen zone, in the EU Schengen zone, you're only allowed to spend 90 days in 6 months in any one jurisdiction, which is fantastic for holidays, long holidays in your Mediterranean villa, or for short business trips up to 90 days. But 90 days in 180 is the limit. You can't work and you can't be a student. You need a separate visa for that, which could be a version of the Schengen visa, or it could be some other residency permit that would allow you to work or visit, and that would vary from country to country. So essentially, the Schengen zone rules out people moving around without a residency permit in that country. What is more, if you want to work, you have to have your residency permit in that country. So to get a tax residency or a social insurance residency now, to start an employment or a self-employment in Cyprus or any other EU country, you have to have your residency permit first. Even if you're from another EU country, you cannot merely, this EU citizens' rights doesn't now allow you to relocate to another EU country and register for social insurance straight away without the residency permit. So there's quite draconian changes in terms of residency be a right to work, which requires a tax residency for the social insurance. And this has implications for contract workers, people working through the personal service companies, as well as people working on employment in another jurisdiction. For more information and guidance, contact us at proactpartnership.com and watch our series at our Living and Working Abroad channel on YouTube. So the changes being brought about from the 1st of January across the EU, including Cyprus, affect EU citizens as well as non-EU citizens. But for non-EU citizens, including UK expats, the requirements, the bar is raised quite a high level. And part of this is down to the EU desire to make it harder and more discerning for people to get into the EU. And this is all part of this global migration crisis that we see around the world, with lots of different countries questioning these movements of people. My personal view is that half the world's population are under 25, and migration is a natural result when young people are looking for an opportunity and a life of work and going forward, which isn't necessarily evident in their home country. So medicine improvements, it reduces child mortality, increases population, and this is what the world needs to adjust to going forward. The EU's reaction to that is to make the bar a bit higher, so that it's a higher earning, more productive person that is allowed easy access into an EU country of residence. For more information and guidance about how you can get residency in Cyprus or any other EU country after Brexit, contact us at proactpartnership.com. So in Cyprus, the additional requirements can be quite draconian, and they include a range of measures which relate to healthcare as well as affordability and income. Setting up a company to verify your earnings is not quite the same arrangement as it was in the past, and doesn't necessarily grant that automatic right. So you need to have the substance behind you to be able to verify what you're trying to do. For EU citizens, the burdens remain relatively lower, but you, as an EU citizen moving within the EU, you have equal treatment in your other EU country to get that right, to get that job, to get that accommodation. So there's no discrimination against you. If you're a non-EU citizen, including UK, then if you're applying for a job, the sponsoring company has to show that you've got a particular skill and income set that warrants granting that residency visa to you. For more information and guidance on the requirements needed to relocate and work as a personal service company,